All right, our first transformation on a coordinate plane is going to be a reflection. And a reflection is where a figure flips over a line. And when we say flips, if I had my hand and I reflected it over across the side, we've got this line here that it would flip over and it would be an opposite, just like the word ambulance is backwards. So when a driver is driving their car, they can see the word correctly in their rear view mirror. So we can do this also on a coordinate plane where we reflect a point or a figure over the x-axis or the y-axis. So I'm going to start off with point A and B, and I'm going to reflect that over the x-axis, and we're going to see what happens. So if A is over 2 up 3, we're going to go ahead and write the original coordinates for that. Over 2 up 3. All right. And we want to reflect it over the x-axis. So a lot of sixth graders get mistaken on which way to reflect the point or the figure. And I always remember if I'm going over the x, here's the x. I need to go over the x and land back over here. So I'm jumping over my x line. So A gets reflected the same distance from the x-axis above to the x-axis below. So if it's over 2 up 3, now it's going to be over 2 down 3 because I want it to cross this line. So over 2 down 3, there's my new A. And in geometry, we put a little marking next to it saying that is my second figure. So it's over 2 down to -3, okay? If I look at B, B is over 4 down 3. So over 4 down -3. And I want to reflect this again over the x-axis. So I'm going to write over x-axis. So we know that these are my x-axis ones. Okay, so if again, I'm going to go over my x, that means I need to jump over my x. So over 4 down 3 now means over 4 up 3. So when I place it, it's going to go here. And again, I'm going to go make that little marking. Over 4 up 3. So I reflect over the x-axis. If I look at my coordinates, 2, 3 to 2, -3, and 4, -3 to 4, +3, the only thing that changed was my y coordinates because it traveled up and down the y axis, but it reflected over the x. And I think that's where a lot of sixth graders have an issue with which way should it go. But just remember, if I am reflecting over the x, that means this needs to travel and cross that x line. So this needs to travel across that x line. Okay? All right, now let's go reflection over the y-axis. So I have 2 points, C and D. There we go. And we're going to reflect them over the y-axis. So it means they're both on this side. They're both going to reflect onto this side. And I'm going to go ahead and erase my A and B at this time so we don't get too confused with all my letters onto my grid. All right, so C needs to go over my y-axis. So C right now is at -3, +1. So let's go ahead and write that down on here. -3, +1. This is going to be over y. All right, so if I'm traveling over my y-axis, that means it needs to travel from -3 all the way over to +3. So here's where my new C is going to land. So it is at +3, +1. All right, and if we would take D and we reflect it over the y-axis, right now D is at -2, -2. So we're going to go ahead and mark that down here. And then when we reflect it over the y, it's going to be +2, -2. And just like in my x-axis, when I reflected, the y's changed to the opposite sign. The x's change when we reflect over the y. So again, it's like a reflection. The opposite changes the other coordinate. So -3 now becomes +3, and -2 becomes +2 over here. All right, and that is how you reflect on a coordinate plane. So what happens if I have a shape? So here I have a right scalene triangle drawn. And I know it's scalene because this is only 2 and this is 3 in length. And I want to reflect that over the x-axis. So if I want to reflect over the x-axis, that means this shape needs to flip over the x-axis and be reflection. So if I took like some paint and I could fold my grid and then open it back up, it would be magically reflected down here into the fourth quadrant. So again, I'm going to take 1, 1 and reflect it over the x, and it's become 1, negative 1. And I have over 4, up 1 for this point. So I reflect and go over 4, down 1, and negative 1. And then this vertex up here is at 1, positive 3. So down here it'd be 1, negative 3. And when we draw it in, oops, yep. There we go. All right, then we have it reflected across the x-axis.